D&D is a game that is played by millions of people all over the world.
The game has drastically evolved over its 5 editions that have changed the rules, mechanics, and its accessibility to all who wish to try it. So,
just what is it?
At its most basic level, D&D is a tabletop role-playing game played by sitting around a table. It is played with however many players and one dungeon master sitting at the end of the table.
The dungeon master is there to present the narrative, world, and game, playing NPCs which the players can interact with, the players creating characters using their own imagination, and with the help of a character sheet. This is a concept which, at its core, can seem somewhat alien, and yet millions of people enjoy this game.
We live in a technological golden age, a time where many different forms of media are at our fingertips, readily available to offer us that next quick hit of dopamine. Video games are getting faster, causing your adrenaline to skyrocket, entombing some in the snare of addiction. Most movies are getting faster and dumber, sacrificing their quality for spectacle, where you can switch off your brain and not think about it, and TV shows are getting shorter. We're providing rubbish quality story and cinematography.
All this together culminates in a modern, technologically advanced world that is moving at 1,000,000 miles per hour, metaphorically speaking. But D&D offers something a bit different.
My name is Ryan, and my role is the role of a player in D&D.
I'm Zach, I'm a player.
My name is Dan Hill, and I am a dungeon master.
Compared to the media we consume daily, D&D offers a far more slow-paced and methodical experience, one built on the bonds of friends working together in a physical environment. To complete a quest, slay a dragon, or massacre an entire kingdom.
Tell me about the character you played. What was their name, their race, their background, their class?
My character's name was Kiki. The species is a lalta, which is this kind of like moth-like species. This character is useful settings where you would need someone to say hotwire a van or engineer or otherwise, like good with tools, good with vehicles, things like that. It believes what it's told, but gullible. It's very gullible.
So this character is part of a species called the Unari. They're called Felix, and they're a sort of like space pirate. The only way that they can sort of like get money to provide for like the very small sort of colony they have of like just essentially like the elderly and the infirm that he sort of has to care for is through criminal activities.
So the Dungeon Master has a few roles really. They're the referee to make sure that all the rules are abided by and checked and processed correctly. Sometimes they can even make their own rules within the game. We have Woden the Prideful, who is an Aasimar paladin. So he's kind of at the moment taking a bit of a kind of leadership kind of role. He's kind of the one that pushes the party and makes the kind of final decisions a lot of the time. Astara, who is a half-elf ranger, kind of bastard-born girl of a noble elvish clan and was kind of cast out. We have her sister, Ophelia, who is a full elf from the same family, who decided to go with her half sister instead of stay with the family, and she's a druid. Rigby Lionspire, who is a warlock, someone who spent most of his life as a timid and kind of shy person and couldn't make any friends and couldn't get any girlfriends and that sort of thing, and he struck a bargain with a fiend who was giving him this kind of enormous charisma, but at the cost of being almost the servant of this demon. Ronrug Fabblestabble, who is a gnomish rogue, gnomish thief sort of thing, and he's just a kind of vagabond just trying to find work and make money and that sort of thing. And finally Carrot Iron Founder, who is a dwarvish barbarian. Yeah, similar to Woden, is trying to kind of find his way as a he was kind of raised rough and now wants to find his way as a kind of positive impact on the world.
So, as you can hear, D&D is a game that requires creativity and a willingness to have fun. It's simple, yet almost infinitely malleable. allowing its players to create whatever they so desire, and even letting them change the mechanics of the game to suit their liking.
Do you feel that this game offered you a sense of escapism? Did it allow you to go into your imagination, become something else for a time?
Yes, of course, that's the entire opposite of me. I get to play as someone completely different.
I don't know why I'd use the word escapism to describe it, but yeah, definitely sort of creating a character and seeing what makes them tick.
But I think anyone can benefit from playing at least a one shot or a two shot of Dungeons and Dragons or any role-playing game, because there's just so much fun to be had,
So, D&D allows you to express yourself and be creative in ways other media cannot. That's what's made it so successful. Documentary over, right?
Okay, so like all the previously mentioned pieces of media I talked about, D&D is a business, and a pretty lucrative one at that, raking in $800 million in 2020 alone for its parent company.
That parent company being none other than Hasbro.
So, what do you think of Hasbro sort of as a company?
I think they're they make toys, so they've clearly thought about that, haven't they? They've clearly went, Haribo's are marketed towards kids, we can make toys marketed towards kids with a similar name, so they think it's linked.
Well, the things they've produced for D&D, I've not seen much of the sort of kits that they've made, or the story guides or campaign guides. The latest one has been, I'm pretty sure, Castle Strahd, which was kind of, if I'm correct, was quite well received. And obviously, it's a company with strong unionisation, which is always good, so the workers probably aren't being exploited too badly.
Let's take a quick look at the history of D&D. D&D had its humble beginnings all the way back in 1974, being created by Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson. In 1977, the intellectual property for the game was bought by TSR. They created a more advanced version of the game, kitted out with new classes, races, and mechanics. TSR later filed for bankruptcy in 1997. They were bought out by a company called Wizards of the Coast for $25 million, which was owned by Hasbro. Wizards of the Coast released 4th edition in 2005 to much success. After that, the 5th edition of the game was released, and that's where we are now. So the question stands, is Hasbro a good company for D&D? Well, they for one have had a very hands-off approach to overseeing the IP, mostly leaving Wizards of the Coast to handle developing the system, writing the books, and overall handling the technical aspects of the game themselves. But as I said, D&D is a business, one which must make money, and Hasbro is no stranger to doing just that.
Do you think D&D is able to branch out into other bits of media like film, TV, games and things like that?
I think they will almost certainly try with its sort of newfound. I think to make it into another form of media other than a game, it loses what makes it D&D.
How can this game of infinite creativity and possibilities translate into other forms of media? Well, let me show you.
In 2000, New Line released the Dungeons and Dragons film to theatres across the world, and, well,
I kinda committed us to find it.
Let their blood rain from the sky!
Okay, well, I think it's one movie I'd watch, not because I particularly enjoy it, but because so bad it's good type thing.
I don't really think I've got anything to say about it, other than if you're going to have a central character, maybe don't introduce them 2/3 of the way into the trailer while introducing the other leads right at the top.
But that's not all. D&D has been translated into all forms of media that differ from its source material.
From storybooks, games such as Baldur's Gate, Dark Alliance and Daggerdale, toys and merchandising such as t-shirts, mugs, posters, action figures, hats, items of clothing and miniatures which can be used in the game itself, and let's not even get started on the Funko Pops.
So it's clear Hasbro know and understand the IP they own, focusing their efforts on heavily monetizing it for all it's worth. But I don't think that's a bad thing.
D&D is now more popular than ever, and the fact that it has stood the test of time and has been able to branch out into other media forms proves that the game is well and truly timeless, being able to translate and mesh well in other formats.
Even though the ideas and concepts of D&D may translate well into other forms of media due to its wildly diverse nature, the game itself is something that needs to be experienced to see what makes it so special.
Would you like to participate in D&D again?
Yes, I'm still waiting for this campaign, the main campaign, the sci-fi campaign to start up. We've only had 2 one-shots so far.
Yeah, so I'm quite looking forward to it. The next character I'm going to be playing will be a drow private detective.
Potentially, I'm thinking about running another game. I think with the frequency that we play, which isn't that often, it's kind of about once a month, I probably do have time to plan and run another game.
The game has for sure had its growing pains when it comes to branching out into other forms of media, but it can translate well if done correctly. Going back to film, D&D is getting another movie, and from what we've seen of the trailers, it looks pretty good. So going forward, D&D will continue to cement its roots in other forms of media that it can essentially branch its way into. So to answer the question, yeah, I'd say that Hasbro's done a pretty good job at marketing and managing the Dungeons & Dragons franchise as a whole. So who knows, maybe it's time for you to give Dungeons & Dragons a try and see what makes it so special. Take care.